This creepy thing happened back in the mid-60s when Zach was around 8 or 9 years old, down in the Atlanta suburbs where he grew up. Zach's dad was a teacher at the same school Zach went to, so every morning he'd drive Zach there before the sun was even up. A few times a week, they'd stop to get gas at this little independent station on the way. They were usually one of the first cars there, right when the station opened. In those days, it was full service, with an attendant who'd come out and pump the gas, clean the windows, and all that. He always had a bunch of cash and coins on him. Behind the pumps were these tiny bathrooms, and sometimes Zach would use them if he needed to go during their stop. One super early morning, they pulled into the station, and it was completely empty. No attendants in the booth or anywhere around. Zach's dad honked the horn a few times, but nobody came out. Zach told his dad he had to use the bathroom, but his dad said they couldn't wait and Zach would have to go to the next station. As they drove off, Zach wondered what had happened. A couple days later, his dad was reading the local paper and suddenly got this shocked look on his face. There was an article about a body being found in a bathroom of that very gas station. The attendant had been stabbed to death and all the cash and coins were missing. Zach couldn't stop thinking about how he'd almost been the one to find that. What if he had insisted on using the bathroom that morning? He can't imagine how messed up that would have been for an 8-year-old kid like him. After that, Zach's dad never took him to that station again. The whole thing was just so creepy and unsettling. Zach was just glad he didn't have to see what happened firsthand. This whole creepy incident happened when John was 25 years old, driving from North to South Texas late at night for work. He was on Route 281 for most of the trip, and at those hours, it was pretty easy, straight drive. The only challenge was just trying to stay awake. John was already feeling pretty beat from work, and then jumping right on the road was brutal. He kept having to stop at random gas stations to get coffee just to keep himself going. Around his third coffee stop, he also needed to fill up his tank. When John pulled into this sketchy little gas station, there was only one other car in the lot. Inside, there was the cashier, who looked to be a middle-aged Hispanic guy, and another guy pacing up and down the aisle. The pacing guy came up to John as he was pouring his coffee and said, "Careful, it's hot," in this really creepy way. John just ignored him and went to pay, but the guy kept bothering him, commenting on his shirt and asking where he was headed so late. John told him to leave him alone, but the guy just said to calm down. As John went back to his car to pump gas, he noticed the guy creeping around the other side of the pump, just standing there watching him. Then the guy asked if John was alone. Feeling threatened, John said his boyfriend was in the car and grabbed the pepper spray he had in the console. The guy started inching closer, so John held the spray up and aimed at him. The guy backed off, laughing and saying he was just trying to make conversation. When John went back inside to get his change, he could see the guy had disappeared. Worried he was hiding somewhere, John asked a guy who had just pulled into the lot to check behind John's car. Sure enough, the creepy guy came running out from back there. John hurried out there, shaken by the whole experience. He couldn't believe that guy was just waiting to pounce as soon as he was alone. It was a really disturbing encounter, and John was glad he was able to get out of it safely. Kevin needed some extra cash, so he took a job working the night shift at the local gas station. The long hours and dealing with the late night crowd were tough, but Kevin figured he could handle it. One night, around 2 a.m., this strange guy started coming in regularly. He was tall, with long stringy hair, and he'd always just buy a tall boy and leave without getting any gas. After a while, he started talking to Kevin, asking his name. He told him it was Kevin, and the guy just kept repeating it, saying he liked it, while laughing to himself. The guy was clearly drunk out of his mind every time he came in. Kevin started wondering if he was driving under the influence since he never bought gas, only alcohol. Sure enough, Kevin would watch him leave and he'd just walk off the property, never getting behind the wheel. This went on for a while, with him sometimes coming in even drunker than usual, just standing there silently, leaning on the shelves. One night, he finally told Kevin his name was Josh, but Kevin had a feeling that was probably fake. When Kevin asked where he worked, he let out this loud, unsettling laugh and said the government had screwed him out of his job. Then he said he liked Kevin, which just made Kevin even more uncomfortable around this guy. About a week later, on a stormy night, Josh came stumbling in, completely soaked and acting really strange. He just stood there, staring at the wall, then looked at Kevin and said, "I did something really bad." He said he needed somewhere to hide. Then he went to the bathroom and didn't come back out. The power went out and Kevin went to check the circuit breaker. As he passed the bathroom, it was empty, but then Kevin heard a noise and Josh lunged at him, screaming that he was going to kill him. Kevin pushed him off and ran out to his car, calling the cops. It turns out that Josh's real name was Victor, and he had brutally beaten his ex-wife to death that night. Kevin was so shaken by the whole ordeal that he knew he never wanted to work another night shift after that. James had done a lot of night driving over the years, not for work or anything specific, but just because he and his old group of friends would often stay out until the early morning hours when they were in their late teens and early 20s. Looking back, it was kind of a waste of time, but back then, they thought hanging out at parks or in parking lots until 5 a.m. every week was the height of cool. Because of that, James had plenty of experience driving at off hours, and he knew that was usually when all the drunks and crazies were on the road. One weekend night, it must have been around 4 a.m., and James was ready to head home after dropping off one of his friends. He figured he'd stop and get gas on the way since he knew the stations would be empty at that time of night. As James was walking from his car to the gas station building to pay, he passed by a short guy in a hoodie. The guy stopped and stared him down as he walked by, but James just said, "What?" and kept going. Probably just some crackhead, he thought. James went inside, paid for his gas, and even bought a lottery ticket while he was at it. When he went back outside to fill up, the parking lot was deserted, as expected. Once done, James got back in his car and started driving home. Halfway there, he heard a noise in the back seat. Glancing in the rearview mirror, James was shocked to see the hooded guy from the gas station sitting back there. James let out a scream and slammed on the brakes, flinging the car door open and yelling for help. As some nearby neighbors came out to see what was going on, the guy jumped out and threatened James, saying he could have slit his throat. Then he took off, running down the street. The neighbors checked on James, who told them what had happened. By that time, the guy was long gone, so James just thanked the neighbors and continued home, shaken by the scariest experience of his life. What do you think was the most unsettling aspect of these gas station encounters? Let us know in the comments below. And if you have any scary encounters, share your experiences with us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Fearflix for more videos like this. Thanks for watching and see you at the next one.